Hello, I'm Eric Renault and this is a video for tipsquirrel.com, the free website for everything Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Camera Raw, Photoshop Elements and today Photoshop Touch. And in this video I'm going to show you how to make a very simple fold in a photograph using Photoshop Touch. So let's jump in and see how it's done. So there we go, that's our finished article there, or something similar to it. I'm going to get rid of that layer just by pressing on the little squares there and then on the rubbish bin, and away it goes. Let's turn on our original and I'm going to duplicate that, so click on the cross and duplicate the layer and then done. And I just want to add a couple of bits and bobs to this, make it black and white, and then quick levels as well just to darken it down a little bit. I want it to look a bit more aged really. There we go, that'll do me. Now I need to add that fold, and this is really quite simple. First of all, I need to make a new layer, so again I'm going to press the cross there and I want an empty layer this time. Click done, and then at the top, if I click on the and sign there, the ampersand, I can fill this layer, and I'm going to fill it with 50% grey. That's already what's in here because it's a sticky thing, so it already remembers what I've done before. But if I click on the swatch there, you can see how I've set this up. I've gone into HSB, hue, saturation and brightness. The hue is set to 0, as 2 is a saturation, and then the brightness at exactly 50%. It's very important that it is exactly 50%, and the opacity at 100%. I've set my drop down here to fill, and then I click the tick, and that's done the job. Now I need to make a marquee of where I want the fold to show. So I'm going to go and get my selection tool, and I'm going to make a very quick rectangular selection. Now you see that I've gone over the edges of the image, and that's fine because when I let go it'll snap to it anyway, so that's okay. So now I've got the basic area where I want my fold to show, but I'd like it to be slightly feathered. So up to the top here and then feather, and the default is about 10 pixels, but I wanted about 30. Again, this is another sticky setting, so you can see I've run through this already and I've got it set to 30 pixels for my feathering. But what's really nice here is it gives you a visual representation of the feathering using this ruby color on the outside, so you can see exactly what you're going to end up with, and that's about nice for me. I'm going to click the tick. It goes away, does what it needs to do, and it pops it in. Good. Now I'd like to add a gradient, so once again it's up to the ampersand and you'll find the gradient in there too. Now again, it's a sticky setting, so my last settings are already in there. But if you'd like to see how I did this, if I click on the palette down the bottom left hand corner, you can see my gradient set up. So if I click on the first dot on the left hand side, you can see again I'm working in HSB, and I've gone 0, 0 hue, saturation, and then 91% in brightness. Because 90 obviously was too simple for me, I chose 91, but you know, it works, so that's okay. The second one, that's set to 53%, and then the last one at 62%. I'm going to just then hide that again by pressing on the palette, and you can see I've got two handles for my gradients, and you can switch these around to your heart's content. You can bring them in together, take them apart, whatever you like to do. And of course you can switch them around, so if you didn't want it that way around, you could turn it around like that. Let's do that, shall we? There we go. So now I'm just trying to match it up with my selection the best I can and get it as level as I can. Once I'm happy with that, I can click the tick, and there is our fold. Let's deselect that. Deselect. There's our fold. All that remains is for me to then click on the two squares down the bottom of the layers here and change the blend mode from normal to overlay, and there's our fold. Easy as that. If it's not quite in the right place, click on the cross at the top here and you can just move it around, and sure enough, because it's got that 50% grey, you can't see a difference between where there is grey and where there isn't because of the overlay mode. Now, to make things a little bit more simple for myself, I'm just going to expand this up a little bit, and then I can sort of overlap it a little bit so as I don't have to worry about keeping it absolutely square on. I'd like it about there, and click the tick. And there it is. It's as simple as that. If that's a bit too much, don't forget you can reduce the opacity. That's too little. That's okay. But for this, I'm going to keep it 100%. So there we are. Very, very simple. Adding a fold into a picture in Photoshop Touch. And don't forget that if you're using the Creative Cloud, you can save this to the Creative Cloud, open it up in Photoshop, and all your layers will be intact. So I don't have to take this as being my final. I can just make a few representations of what I want to do properly in Photoshop later if I wish. So there we go. I'm Eric Renault. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you next time.